At the Walt Disney World Resort seem to be taking more than they're giving these days. When it comes to Epcot, they're taking away lots. But we, are even surprised at this one. The Seas Pavilion. It's been there since the opening of the theme park, but it might be on the way out. Now, I know, you're wondering, what in the world are they basing this on? Well, folks, hang tight and we'll tell you why the removal of Dolphins and Manatees could be the beginning of the end. Hello, folks. Welcome back to the Pro Channel. It is a joy as ever to share our time with you. Thank you so much for choosing to be here with us. And folks, we're here to tell you that we're not happy. We're not happy when Disney cuts. But apparently they're nuts. And they think that because they can't compete with major aquariums, why even try in the first place? Get ready. We'll tell you what's going on. It is a sad situation where Epcot continues to be diminished, decreased. Come on, Disney, we're begging you, cease. This is an exclusive from That Park Place and with Marvin Montanaro. You might say, well, wait a minute, I know all about the Seas Pavilion. That's on other sites. Folks, we're to tell you, it's not the full story. They may be getting ready to very drastically change the Seas Pavilion. And they may be getting ready to do what they're doing at Animal Kingdom, which is get rid of those poor little critters. Walt Disney World ditches live manatees at the Seas Pavilion. Is Epcot getting further from Walt's original vision? Here's the article, and then we'll tell you what we are hearing. The Seas with Nemo and Friends at Epcot, once a cornerstone of Disney's commitment to combining education with entertainment, has lost two of its most beloved residents, Lil Joe and I don't know, is this Spanish? Is this Inigo? I don't know what the name.
Inigo?
Yeah, Inigo. Yeah.
Inigo. Okay.
You may recognize that name from Princess Bride.
Oh, now I get it. The pavilions, by the way, I think every manatee should be named Andre then. The pavilion's resident manatees have been relocated, leaving the manatee viewing area roped off and inaccessible to guests. No more sea cows for you. This change, while reportedly in line with recommendations from the Manatee Rehabilitation Partnership and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services, is just the latest in a series of moves that diminish Epcot's value as an educational theme park. Lil Joe had been a longtime resident of the seas, delighting visitors with his gentle nature and inspiring countless conversations about marine conservation. Meanwhile, Inigo had just joined in September, and he's got to go. They got to kick him out. He's gone already. Cast members have stated that the seas will refocus on short-term rehabilitation and that new manatees may eventually be introduced. However, this remains unconfirmed, leaving the iconic manatee exhibit behind blue curtains and ropes for the foreseeable future. Now,
can I add something, Pro?
Yeah,
really quick. For a lot of us who would visit Epcot year after year, going to the Seas Pavilion and going to see Little Joe was like something you did every year to see how he was doing. So many people were interested in his story because Little Joe could not survive out in the wild. He was injured so badly, but he was taken care of there so well. And people would ask questions. You learn about, manatee conservation, especially if you're boating out here in Florida. You have to know that manatees can't hear very well. So that's why it's important, to watch out for them, to take care of them. And it really taught kids and adults as well about, conservation of the seas and just these little things. And it was like a thing you saw every year, every other year. Little Joe is over at the Seas Pavilion. Let's go over and see how he's doing. To rip that out, it's just yet one more thing that gets away from, the edutainment value of Epcot and just that experience, the Disney difference, being able to go and see manatees up close so you can find out what they are, especially if you don't live here. That's the other thing, especially if you were from, out of the state or out of the country, to go and see these things. And I feel the loss myself because I can't remember a year going to Epcot where I didn't get to see Little Joe.
So let's talk about Lorena then. Let me bounce off of you with a returning question. Little follow-up here. The Dolphins are gone. So Disney has removed the Dolphins. Yep. Disney has removed the manatees. And many people are now beginning to wonder is the seas on a very short leash? Is this the end of the seas? What do you think? I mean, I know that we're going to keep the Nemo ride, but I think Disney is leaning hard into they don't care about education in Epcot anymore. And it wouldn't surprise me if they're like, put some screens up, give some CGI fish. Like, we're done. We don't want to maintain this, and we can't compete with regular aquariums. What say you?
You talk basketball.
Yeah, okay. Well, I was just, I mean, look, we have seen a number of cost-cutting efforts from the Walt Disney Company when it comes to the parks. I mean, we're seeing it over and over and over and over again, where a lot of their decision-making is, okay, how do we reduce the operating costs for this particular section, or within this particular land, or within this particular park, right? I think that's what a lot of what is behind the move to get rid of Rivers America is all about, reducing operating costs, maximizing. Oh, good.
Right, and they do not care about the original vision of Epcot at all.
Oh, the original vision. I mean, they've already said multiple times that we're reimagining the vision for Epcot, and it's really disheartening. I will say, in preparation for this particular topic that we're going to cover as well on T3PO, I was looking into it, and apparently, he's your number one fan, bro.
Who's my number one fan? Who is this?
Tom Corliss from Walt Disney World News Today wrote. Sorry, it was going to come up, so I might get it out of the way there. No, he wrote an article back in 2018 on Walt Disney World News Today, talking about a rumor that they were hearing that Disney was going to get rid of both the land and the seas pavilions. That was, not taken with much, it was taken with a grain of salt, obviously, and not a lot of people put a lot of stock into that. But now that we've seen the reduction of these two exhibits right here, definitely some of the more costly exhibits when you look at what was the world's largest aquarium back at the time that the Seas Pavilion actually opened. It definitely does lend credence, I think, to the idea that I think Disney is moving away from this. Also, too, these things don't happen in a vacuum. We saw SeaWorld go through tremendous issues related to Blackfish and that documentary, and so I don't think they want to have anything, that could necessarily sway public opinion in that way regarding these theme parks right here. I think Disney is walking away from a lot of this conservation effort with live animals and so forth, for those reasons, and I think cost is definitely the big driving factor here.
And we're probably not getting animals in the Animal Kingdom expansion either. So that's interesting. So Disney is far, far away from where they once were, and there's a loss of quality here, folks, that I think we need to remember. Epcot today, after that $1 billion plus change, to me is a far diminished Epcot versus where it was. I don't think this is the theme park that people enjoyed. I don't think it's even close anymore. And turning Spaceship Earth's prior corporate lounge into a VIP bar, it's not doing it for me. It's just not doing it for me. Jonas, would you like to weigh in?
Yeah, well, I will say that the Living Seas was never my favorite attraction when I went to Epcot, even though Epcot was, I should say, one of my favorite parks. Was for a long time my absolute favorite park at Walt Disney World Resort, especially as a kid growing up in Florida. It's the one you end up going to the most. Well, it used to be back when it was cheap to send kids there for a field trip. It was still not that cheap, but it was at least enough that a parent could stomach, okay, a little bit of money here and there, and my kid goes and has a 1-day trip to the supposedly educational theme park. So I might have been there more than I've been to Magic Kingdom. This is a park that is supposed to embody an optimistic view of the future. And for them to get rid of the animals, to me, kind of goes against that idea of the optimistic vision of the future, which when Disney went political and they leaned towards one side, that's supposed to be, if I'm not mistaken, one of the hallmarks of that side of the aisle is progress and an optimistic vision of the future. So I see this as very hypocritical. I view this very cynically. Also, especially in Florida, it's good to know what goes on with manatees because they can be self-victimizing because of the way that they carry themselves in the water. Very close to the surface, very curious about speedboats, especially boats with motors in the back. You almost never see a manatee that doesn't have scarring on its back. It's
sad. I would also say, too, that I suspect that Disney is looking at the cost and saying, you know what, we can't compete with the regional aquarium offerings around the country. So we quit. That's what I think they're doing. I think they're quitting. And Disney are a bunch of quitters. I think people need to call this out. I don't think people need to be shy or embarrassed or nervous about saying, you know, Disney, you have an entire area set aside for manatees. I mean, if you want to put penguins there, you put penguins in there. Cool. But you can't leave it empty with a caution tape, you know, wrap off and think, well, that's good enough. We will call you out on it. You're spending too much money. You're spending $200 a pop essentially to go into Epcot. And I'm sorry, I don't think caution tape is a sufficient answer to the amount of money that's being spent for families as they go and gather at Epcot. You know, it's always sad when one of these video ends, and yet it is the beginning of the wait for the next one to land 4 times a day right here on the Pro Channel. And by the way, there's plenty more on our partner channels, That Park Place, That Pod Place, That Game Place, and go check out the original music we have on stations like Vacation Radio. We'd love to have you, love to entertain you. At least we'll do a better job than some of the current entertainment companies. Folks, like, share, subscribe, and you know what? Drop a comment right on down below. Share this out anywhere you go on social media. And until the next time, we have the honor, the pleasure of getting to spend time with you when you choose to invite us into your day to add the value that we hope to bring your way. We ask that you keep learning, keep growing, and as always, keep having fun.